you lift it with your right hand. Go ahead.
I, Mutahi Kagwe, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matters under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. Sit down and sign to the oath. Having signed to the oath, nominee, if you have your documentation that the invitation directed you to come with, pass them on to the sergeant to give the clerk. You have already done so? Excellent. Honorable members, I want to disclose that the nominee was my yearmate at the University of Nairobi. The nominee and I served in the cabinet of our late President Mwai Kibaki. That, however, will not in any way impair or affect my capacity to question him on his suitability for the job for which he has been nominated. Thank you. Now, Honorable Mutahi Kagwe, in less than 5 minutes, tell this committee who you are, your background, your education, and why you think you are suitable to hold office for which you have been nominated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the nominating committee. First and foremost, before I start, Mr. Chairman, let me just say that I want to say thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to God indeed, because that is why He is why we are here today. Secondly, I wish to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President, for this appointment or nomination, which I hope will be approved by this committee. Thirdly, Mr. Chairman, I very briefly will say that, as I said, my name is Mutahi Kagwe. I was born in Nyeri County, and Mr. Chairman, if you allow, as I go along, I will give the reasons. I will tie up the reasons why I think I'm suitable for this job with my background. I went to primary school in a rural school in Nyeri, and I think that is where I started the journey to this discussion here today. Most of you will remember that in primary schools, or some of you will remember, that in primary schools, we used to have what was called the 4K Club. The 4K Club is where we started our farming. Some of us went there. And Mr. Chairman, if you remember, the 4K Clubs introduced us to agriculture. And that's why I picked my talent of planting trees and so on. Mr. Chairman, in my primary school, what we did, I lived a rural primary school life where we did a lot of work in coffee. I have carried coffee on my backside to take it to the factories. First in Ishamara, if anybody knows the place, in Nyeri. We have spent our school holidays in coffee factories where we were drying the coffee beans and so on and so forth.
You know what 4K meant?
Kuungana, kufanya, kuungana,
kufanya, kusaidia Kenya.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and I was a member of that, and I clearly, you two are a member. Yeah, that's what it meant. And Mr. Chairman,
Majority leader didn't know that.
yeah,
I think he went to school when 4K was dead.
probably. But it is one of the things perhaps we should think about reviving as we go along. Mr. Chairman, I then went to Kagwe High School, where I studied for 6 years. But in the course of my studies too, I was a member of the agricultural club in the school. And it is through the agricultural club in the school that we actually started eating eggs at Kagwe High School, because it is how we started the school poultry project. And I remember distinctly Mr. Gisheru, who was our teacher, leading that whole project, and just emphasizing to us the importance of agriculture at the time. But I was successful in Kagwe High School, and I went to the University of Nairobi, where, as you graciously acknowledged, Mr. Chairman, we were in school together, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in commerce. And I want to talk about that commerce degree, Mr. Chairman, because a degree in commerce prepares you generally for business management. May it be the business in public or business in the private sector. And my education was rounded enough so that in the course of my career, as I left university, in the course of my career, I have managed very different businesses, both in public and private life. I also went on, Mr. Chairman, to do a master's degree at USIU, again in business administration, a master's in business administration, emphasizing my studies more in management information systems as well as finance. Mr. Chairman, during this time, I did my master's when I was working, but I started off my working career at an interesting small place called Mashambani Magazine. Mashambani Magazine was a magazine published by trend publishers, which was about farming. And I later, in my capacity as a marketing manager of that company, closed Mashambani Magazine and replaced it with Farmer's Voice. The Farmer's Voice magazine, which I worked for, was actually the KFA magazine. Those of you who remember, the Kenya Farmers Association is the one that owned the Farmer's Voice, which I published and ran for 2 years. So again, Mr. Speaker, that's why I said the journey that I'm going to explain has gone on to attach me to this interview here today. Of course, I would never have foreseen that this was going to happen. So, Mr. Speaker, having finished my education, I went on to run Trend Publishers, which was Viva, better known as Viva Magazine. I left Viva Magazine and joined the Standard Newspaper Group as advertising manager, followed on where I rose in the group, which was then owned by Lonro East Africa, to become the commercial operations director. Following my 11 years as an employee of Lonro, I then branched out on my own to start my own businesses. And since then, that is what I have been doing in my private life, running businesses over that period since the year 1992, when I left formal employment. Mr. Chairman, after that, during my period, in the year 2002, I ran for office. I felt that having done being educated, having then gone on to develop a successful career, I felt that I should do some public work and serve the people. And I went to Mukurweini constituency, where I ran for office and was elected in 2002 as a member of parliament for Mukurweini constituency. In the course of that, you will remember, Mr. Chairman, that at that time, cabinet secretaries, cabinet ministers were also appointed from the parliament. And I was appointed as the Minister for Information and Communications in the year 2005. I served as Minister for Information and Communication, And I can say that it is one of my most exciting times. And in terms of preparing me for, again, going back to the cabinet as CS for agriculture and livestock, that's where I cut my teeth in that space of understanding government, being clear about the roles that the different arms of government play, being clear about the role of cabinet, collective responsibility, and other aspects that you learn as you do these jobs. I then, in 2007, I lost my position as Member of Parliament, but then I was appointed by His Excellency, late President Kibaki, to be chairman of the Multimedia University Council. I was the first chairman of that university and laid the foundation of what is now perhaps a uniquely placed university in terms of the technology space and communication space. And again, I'm very proud of my work there and what we did. I then, Mr. Chairman, left.
Wind up.
I then, Mr. Chairman, went to back to Nyeri County, where I became the senator of Nyeri County, followed after that by my appointment again back to the cabinet as the CS for health in 2019. And Mr. Chairman, all that experience that I have had, both my education, my experience in school, my experience in private sector, my experience as cabinet secretary and the Minister for Information, cabinet secretary for health, have all, in my opinion, ably prepared me for this particular position.
Thank you. I'll invite members to put questions to you, starting with the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, now that you're going to be the Minister of Agriculture, we know certain challenges exist in that sector. First, Kenya is a net importer of foods that is capable of producing, like edible oil and rice and wheat. We also know the fact that the average age of a farmer is 65. Yet, our population is highly youthful. If you're approved for this appointment, what strategies will you employ to make agriculture more attractive and profitable to young people so that we can ensure that we have food security in the future? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Now, let me just start by the rider that you started with, which is the importance of agriculture in the country. And to say that over the years, the problem that you have alluded to, the issue of food importation, the issue of youth, has been around with us. The framework on which the current agriculture ministry is being run, or is agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy. Mr. Chairman, I want to raise this issue broadly to say the following. First, there has been a misguided notion, I think, over the years that we have all made. And that is to say that the focus, the initial focus of everything in agriculture is production. Mr. Chairman, what we must refocus on in the ASDGS is coming on for review, because it was structured in 2019 and is coming up for review after 5 years. Mr. Chairman, the only way that agriculture is going to be the kind of industry, the kind of structure, the kind of mainstay for our people that we are ever going to construct is if the farmer becomes a central consideration of everything that we do. Mr. Chairman, until and unless the farmer looks at his profit and loss statement and sees that he is making more money than he is spending, we are going to continue having issues of food security. We are going to continue having issues of underproduction of food items, as well as cash crop items, as well as livestock items. So the focus to me, and what we must begin to philosophize about, has got to be, how do we put more money in the farmer's pocket? If we ask ourselves that statement, and I want Mr. Chairman to say that I recall very distinctly that when I was appointed Cabinet Minister for Information, and I tried to figure out how to deal with the many problems that were there, we arrived at one sentence: let's take a telephone and it works. Everything else we do around us must be focused on that issue. Whether we are going to get international gateways, whether we are going to license other players in the market, it is all should be about the concept of a telephone working. Similarly, if we are going to revive agriculture, the only way we are ever going to do it is when the farmer is profitable. When the farmer is profitable, we'll have enough food. When the farmer is profitable, we'll have enough for exports and so on. But no matter how many papers we write, no matter how many debates we have, no matter how much discussion we are going to have, unless and until the farmer looks at his balance sheet and says that income equals price times quantity, we are not going to succeed. So for me, therefore, when we look at the sphere, when we look at the entire agricultural space, then things that we do should go to that. You talked about the youth. Youth today, Gen Zs, millennials, and others, are about one thing if they are going to go to business. It's about profit. It's about making money. No youth is going to go to agriculture because we are urging them to go there. They are only going to go to agriculture if they are going to make money. And the only way they are going to make money is by taking the necessary steps that we have to make in order for agriculture to be responsive to profit making. Now, Mr. Chairman, this is very broad, and therefore you allow me space just to expand a little bit. There are many activities within the agricultural sector that we have to carry forward, that we have to do. For example, just to take youth as an example. In order for us to attract the youth into agriculture, youth have no land to grow food on. A lot of the young people don't have land. So we have to think broadly about how can we afford them land first. There is a lot of land, ADC and other organizations, private sector, land that is lying idle, that is not being used, that we can lease to these people. Now, in order for us to lease land to these people, we have got to make sure that the land, that the use of the land that they are getting is going to be profitable to them. Because that's why, in the first place, they are going to go for that idea. How are you going to do that? Our research organizations must ensure that we have done proper soil analysis. Our seed people must have the correct seeds so that people can plant seeds that germinate, seeds that produce the correct product. We have got to plant the right crops in the right places so that they can grow en masse and produce more per acre. So we have got to use the technology because youth are interested in technology. And also we have to define, when we say that the youth should be involved in agriculture, which part of agriculture are we talking about? Because it is not just about growing to grow crops. For example, tourism in agriculture is being involved in agriculture. You know, you travel all over the world and you see yourself being taken to places where they grow all sorts of things in other nations. We want people to come to Kenya also to see our agriculture. That's an area that can be attractive to the youth. There is fintech and agri-finance. These are the areas that the youth are going to be interested in. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman, the business of agriculture has got to be looked at from a profit and loss in order for us to make it worthwhile and in order for us to revive it. Agriculture for the youth must be made cool. It is too ordinary. It's too boring. Youth are not going to go there the way it is structured today. It's got to be something more exciting that involves technology, that involves new ways of doing things, that involves areas in agriculture that we have not quite spent our time on, things like hydroponics, aquaponics. These are areas that they are going to look at. The use of technology means that they are going to introduce new things in agriculture that do not currently exist. What does that mean, therefore? It means that the training that we are going to engage in, working together with the ministries of education, we have to look at the training that we are giving the agricultural sector, the agricultural students. What are we training them in? The future of agriculture is going to be in technology. AI, for example, artificial intelligence, is going to play a very crucial role in the future of agriculture. And if that is the case, are we educating our people, our future farmers, enough to deal with that issue? They are doing it elsewhere. If you go across the world, they will be doing that. So the question is whether we are preparing ours to compete with the best in the world.
Thank you. Majority Leader, I will encourage you, nominee, to exercise some brevity in answering questions. You have 2 hours engagement with us.
I'm trying, Mr. Chairman. It's just the breadth of the question.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, maybe I'll start the CS nominee from his response to Mr. Ura's affidavit in respect to your suitability for appointment based on your professional academic qualifications. And he responded by saying that the fundamental criteria for appointment to such a position is based on one's ability to provide effective leadership and service to the public. And in that regard, you say you have the requisite qualifications to serve as Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture despite not having any training in agriculture.